Good company this Ramadan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum. Welcome back to the Iftar Drive. And of course, right now it is our spiritual hour. Moulana Yunus, how are you feeling today?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Moulana, should I get you some tissue? Are you okay?
Tissue makes it worse.
It does, hey?
No, get it back. It's just that the medication I take at night that knocks me out. Man.
Is it, huh?
Yeah.
Subhanallah. Hey, man, I'll make it easy for you, hey?
I mean,
Give you shifa, come in and give you shifa immediately, inshallah.
Inshallah. But we got a short run. Let's get on with
Yeah,
it.
definitely. You know, Moulana, we were talking just off air what we'll be discussing today, and it made me think about how in our communities we love to tease people, we love to make fun of people, give them names, Shorty, Langaman, and all sort of funny names. But today we'll be discussing that exactly, which surah, which juz.
So this is Surah Al-Hujurat. So in 26th Jews actually.
Mhm.
So I'm taking it from those of doing 1.5. So we're in 26 Jews on Surah Al-Hujurat, and we're focusing more from the ayah which speaks about exactly what you mentioned right now in terms of ridiculing other people. And carrying on with the ayah, we'll be speaking about backbiting, etc. Because this is one of the things that we need to keep in mind, is that the tongue has a lot of sins that it does commit. And taken from one hadith that من كان يؤمن بالله وباليوم الآخر فليقل خيرا أو ليصمت. That person who believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the last day, he should say something which is good or just keep quiet. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam have told us many times, countless of times, about the harms of the tongue. May it be that you're speaking badly about someone, or maybe just saying something which is the truth, however, knowing that that thing might harm another person. So rather to just keep quiet and inshallah seek forgiveness.
من كان يؤمن بالله فليقل خيرا أو ليصمت.
So there's a very beautiful and another Arabic proverb which says that man samata naja, that person who keeps quiet actually becomes successful, right? He gets.
But human nature, Moulana, familiarity breeds contempt. I mean, familiarity breeds playfulness. I know the saying goes, breeds contempt.
100%.
You know, like I'm getting to know you now, mashallah, much better. It's been almost 17 days. We 18 days. 18 days, right? So we know each other.
Yeah.
And then one day I feel like I'm very comfortable with you, and I start I tease you in a way that you don't like,
Right.
or I say something, or I you know, I'm thinking that no, I'm familiar with you.
Right.
So human nature, Moulana, is that we are going to tease each other. We're going to give each other names. But what does the Quran say about giving each other names,
So the
and
Quran
why?
tells us that we shouldn't give each other names which are despicable, whereby a person, obviously, when you're calling that person and they don't like that name, so it becomes a bad notation on him. That person, if they dislike it and you carry on calling him with it, it becomes a sin. And in this obviously beautiful month, we want to stay away from such situations. Now, when we start with this ayah, it says that يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم. That there should not be amongst you people who ridicule another people, unless obviously they're better than them. But now, subhanallah, now the question will be, how are they better? Now, this question we'll put it on hold because Allah actually answers it later on in the segment of the ayat which are coming. Inshallah, we'll reach there today.
But very interestingly as well, Moulana, he says, "Wala nisa." So he talks about men and women. Why do you think Allah Ta'ala makes it very, very, deliberate when he says men should not do this, and then he says women also should not do this?
Because both genders actually do have this say element of talking too much. Normally. In the olden days, people used to say women gossip, etc. But now it's actually become a communal thing that everyone gossips.
Everyone.
The others, right? Panchat. You find those uncles after the Isha Salah standing outside there having their own daily panchat going on. So these things need to be desisted from because it becomes part of the norm of people, but it shouldn't be. Because it's a very, I could say, bad habit that we have, and we need to cut it out.
But I also think together with what you mentioned, Moulana, is that Allah Ta'ala is making it very clear that this sin is both men and women both, what's the word I'm looking for?
Guilty of.
Guilty of.
Mm.
Yeah. Men like doing it, women like doing it.
True.
So we can't say this is women behavior or
No.
men behavior.
Because on the men's side, mostly you find that it's the name calling, giving nicknames, etc. We might find that you have your basketball team, favorite guys who meet up on Sundays and play basketball with, that call each other certain names. Some maybe there's a certain basketball player, NBA player who's bad, and you just give him the nickname. Like the one guy named is Westbrook. Normally we call him a brick because he's bad at shots. So when we have one of the guys in the team who's bad at it, then we call him Westbrook. So obviously the guy at first will be like, it's just a joke. We're going on with it. But after some time, it gets to him.
Right.
And when that point comes, now then we need to desist, because now we're putting the person in a bad position, bad situation, whereby that person might actually harbor some sort of hatred for the team, for the guys, for the friends, and the whole crew because of that situation now. I mean, initially it started off as I could say innocent. Many times people say that, no, but it was an innocent gesture, it was an innocent calling that we had at first, but later on the person didn't like it. So obviously it's the situation of, I remember one time.
So only a nickname that the person doesn't like,
okay, so obviously when the person knows of it, and they don't like the nickname, then you stop. But if the person does, then it's fine, right? Yeah. But
because I was gonna say that when we were young, if you didn't have a nickname, you were not cool.
Yeah, there's another thing, right? But then another thing here comes also again, Moulana, in terms of bad nicknames which have bad connotations. Now remember, there's also mentioned on Hani that people be called by the names that were called with in the dunya. So if the person likes to be called long because he's tall, then they'll call him long. Right? Amongst being called by the names which are attributed to his father, Fulan, Ibn Fulan, then he'll be called with his nickname that he used to love being called with. Like many times you find guys like Yusuf wants to be called Joe, Suleiman wants to be called Soli, So even the angels, when they call your name, they'll be calling you Soli, they'll be calling you
But
Joe.
even people with Yunus also call himself Joe, right?
Yes. I know a lot of guys used to call me Jonah. I don't like it, because it reminded me of my high school days. But anyway.
No, I mean like okay. So moving right along.
So now, then the next point I also want to speak about one television one for second one and Bazubi al Pub, and most important, do not ascribe like bad names to each other. Now, al doesn't only mean bad names; it can mean names which have sort of a bad demeanor in them, a bad meaning. Obviously, sometimes a person, like you said, sometimes it's like if you don't have a nickname, you're like not cool. But at the same time, we need to think like, okay, this name is going to stick. I mean, even I know my friends, subhanAllah, I have kids, etc., etc. So certain times it happens one person will call me with a nickname from my childhood days, and my son will be like, okay, who's that? How you need to explain. So those type of situations can also creep up, etc. But also, when you become like a different person later on in life, you change your life, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts the work from you, then that name does stick. I know some people in my old neighborhood still call me with the old nicknames from my childhood. Most of them I don't really like, but it's not fitting also for a situation or a level where a person will now become a da'i, etc. Then you walk in, making street dawah, then the person just comes with that name. But innocently so. Then we go on. Allah subhanahu wa talk about that iman. That all those bad names, after you have obviously attained iman, become Muslim, inshallah. They should move away because they have bad meanings. Now you look at situation of names again. I always like to mention to my close friends that look, the situation of names, especially in the African cultures, is a very big thing. Because sometimes we think it's a small thing, right? Many a times when a person becomes a Muslim, the first thing people would say is that give him a name.
Right.
But remember, that's not the case here. The case is not changing the person's name, because the name is part of the person's identity. And you need to learn that names mean a lot of things in our African backgrounds, African cultures. When you look at the topic of names, hadith tell us that names are only changed when they have bad meanings.
Right.
right? And the best of names are those which are attributed to Allah, like Abdul Rahman, Abdul Rahim, Abdullah, etc. So many, like I remember one time we had a situation, subhanAllah, we were doing this Dawah program. It was a open mosque program, I remember, like 2 years ago in Brixton. One lady embraced Islam. And one brother came up to me. Asked, what happened? I said, yeah, your friend inside, this lady became Muslim, they don't want to change her name. Then I asked them that, why? But we don't have to change her name. What was her name, original name? Did you even ask? I didn't. And to find out that her name actually meant something which was very amazing, like it was a vendor name. I just can't remember what the name meant. Then I said, we don't have to change the name. According to Hadith, only change when the name has that meaning.
Right.
Look at Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu. His initial name was Abdul Ka'b. Then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam changed it to Abdullah. People don't even know that his name is Abdullah.
This is Abu Bakr.
Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, because people obviously are accustomed to his laqab, which is Abu Bakr. And he liked it, never had a problem with it. Same thing goes on like the question you asked, that sometimes the name does have a bad connotation, then you have to change it. But here, Abu Bakr didn't have any bad name connotation. People carried on calling him Abu Bakr. Then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam on with As-Siddiq because of the attribute that he had. Then those stuck. As-Siddiq until he passed away, even until now, 1400 years later.
Right.
So there's a situation that we're facing also there. That now people now get used to the laqab. Even I could say about even my learners, 65% of them didn't know his real name was Abdullah. When subhanAllah, when I was teaching the Ashar al-Bashara, I was telling them that I remember the names according to the Ains. All of the Ashar al-Bashara, I have Ains in either their name or the name of the father or a laqab like Abu Ubaidah, etc. Then it came to Abu Bakr. Like where's the Ain? Like, Abdullah, that's his real name. They were amazed. So like these things we need to think about and try
That's
to
a very
assess,
that's a very good way to remember.
It
All
is.
the, Ashar Mubashara.
Subhanallah.
Okay.
And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends this ayah, says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَتُبْ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. Now you're asking me, where does tawbah come into this whole situation of calling people with names?
Names, right? Yeah.
Right.
Explain it.
So that means that it became a sin. Carrying on calling someone with a name that they don't like, giving people names that they wouldn't like. Sometimes we give people, we have this thing with our families and friends, code names. When certain person comes, so much so that nowadays you don't even need to give a name. You just shrug, then the person really knows who you're talking about.
Okay.
Subhanallah, you just make a gesture, then a person already knows what you're talking about. Like Subhanallah, I remember there was one hadith I read, an incident between Aisha anha and Hafsa together, and they were always had a thing against Sayyidatina Zainab bin Jahsh because she was very short.
Oh, okay.
SubhanAllah. So they used to call her like short in a way. But now they came to a point that they never actually had to say the name. They just made a gesture with their hands.
That's derogatory.
Exactly. So now Nabi Sallallahu it came across and he found out and he told them about it. And this ayah on it over and over again.
Okay, mashallah.
So those who do not repent, now they become amongst those oppressive. Because remember now you're putting a person in a very difficult situation, uncomfortable situation, that now it becomes like dhulm. It becomes like a sort of an oppression that the person doesn't even feel like being in the same vicinity as you are when you keep on giving them this bad.
And in the age of social media today, this is even worse, isn't it?
SubhanAllah, in the age of social media, you see one thing that I think we have lacked as a community at large is that sense of respect. Like many times you hear people say that I'll agree to disagree. Like that's a sense of respect, especially on dialogue. You look at the ulama from before, they had the sense of respect amongst themselves. They never used to call each other names which were like derogative, like this. To the point that you are disgusted when you look at what they write about each other. They still held that sense of respect. There is a book of, I remember we used to read in Madrasa, Adab al-Ikhtilaf. So those are type of books that teach you of how to speak about each other, especially when you're contemporaries. When you're contemporaries, you can talk, excuse me for the word, nonsense about each other, but you still have that sense of respect for each other. Now, when it's people who are far apart in age group, in terms of when one became alim, etc., then there's more respect that's needed. Also in the society at large, also. So those are many times people. Of social media, they become their own cliques, gangs, start name calling and labeling other people, writing other people off, which are things that I don't think we have the power and authority to do so.
No,
Especially
absolutely,
indeed.
especially when it comes to insulting another person, and you do so just for likes, for clout or whatever. And when a bad name gains popularity on social media, it snowballs into this thing where you have no control over it.
Exactly.
And that is why Allah Ta'ala has mentioned the dignity of a person is so important, to the extent where Allah Ta'ala says you cannot give each other hurtful names, and because this impairs the dignity of a person.
It does.
And with social media, it can just run away, and before you know it, it could start trending. Something trends, you got no control over it.
Exactly, and I remember we spoke about this hadith before, that whoever initiates a good deed, he gets the rewards when it carries on.
Right.
Now imagine you call someone a bad name and that name carries on, and people calling a person with name. What is the
The
situation?
guna, until every single person uses that name against this person is on you who instituted it.
Exactly. So now we need to refrain from that, especially more so in this beautiful month of Ramadan, because it does happen sometimes. Just stand and start talking. There's an English saying that an idle mind is the devil's playground. Whenever people are bored, then all these things come up. So inshallah, I think we can.
Moulana, the surah starts to get very interesting after that.
It does.
And
I think we can continue tomorrow.
I think we'll save some of it for tomorrow, inshallah.
Inshallah.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن. Oh, that's a beautiful ayah. Don't think badly of each other.
Don't even think badly.
The importance of husn dhan.
Allah.
I know you already fired up for it. Moulana, Jazakallah khair. We will leave that for tomorrow, inshallah. I hope you feel better soon. It's the flu, right?
Yeah.
Because the reason why I'm asking is because we've just come out of COVID-19 for 2 years, and I promise you, I also had the flu like a week ago, and I was telling people that I don't know if it's a flu.
What's
COVID.
happening?
But alhamdulillah, it's not COVID, because I'm fine now. So I hope it's just the flu. Okay. Moulana Yunus Kawanga, our guest every day, Monday to Thursday. In fact, he's tomorrow you're not here, so we'll have to continue this on Monday.
No, tomorrow is Thursday, isn't it?
It's tomorrow. Oh goodness,
Yes,
I've completely. I'm thinking it's Thursday today. No. I'm sorry, my bad. Got it all wrong. But the time is correct. It's 28 minutes to 6 Central African time. We're coming back, inshallah, with our nasiha, and it's Moulana Dawood Ndlovu. He'll be our nasih, inshallah. Stay tuned.